Cory Webster, what is going on with Cory?
So I'm just going to give you the full story for the first time, because this is the first time I've been asked the full story. Cory approached us on Wednesday, day he got back, asked to meet with me and Dan Shamir. Said he has an offer in Turkey and he'd like us to consider it. We told him that he's one of our best players. He's coming off a World Cup where he's one of the top performers. We invested a lot in him this offseason, got him a personal trainer. He worked out every day in our facility, and we're a week out from the season. So we told him in order for there to be any chance of him leaving, which in our minds there wasn't much of that chance, there needed to be a financial and business incentive for the club. We spoke directly with the club, Darüşşafaka in Turkey. They told us in no uncertain terms there is $0 they'll contribute to a buyout. We know what the salary is for the contract. There's no path to us getting a buyout that would make sense for us a week before the season. And when I tell people about this, I say it's such a non-story for me as a former player. Of course, I understand Cory's perspective. We'd love for him to, be able to go and pursue a Euro Cup team, because in his mind, if he feels like that's better. But Nick Kaye just killed it for the Boomers. Chris Goulding from Melbourne United just killed it for the Boomers. Do you think Melbourne United or Perth would let those guys go for free? Oh, you guys played well. Go pursue another team. We have Cory under contract for 2 years. He's one of our best players. He's totally irreplaceable. There's not another Cory Webster in New Zealand. So for us, it's a no-brainer. We have to keep him. He's so important to our team.
There is Ethan Rusbatch, isn't there? But I guess he's not a Cory Webster.
Look, Ethan is a very good player, and he's gotten a lot better. But I mean it when I say there is not another Cory Webster in this country. He's the most talented scorer. He's coming off a second leading scorer in the whole World Cup. This isn't something, it's funny because internally, of course we knew there'd be interest. He led the World Cup in scoring. He's killing it. He's giving 30 points to Turkey, 30 points to Greece. Nobody can stop him. And us, we're salivating thinking, wow, this guy's going to change our team this year. This is the Cory Webster we always hoped we could have. But of course, it's a business. We understand teams are interested. And that's why it's so great for us that we have him under contract for 2 more years. Because if we get that Cory Webster, we're competing for the championship.
Because you weren't happy with Cory Webster last year, were you?
Yes, and let me address this, because there's this idea out there that I said Cory Webster was the worst guard in the league last year. Those words never came out of my mouth, and of course they didn't come out of my mouth sitting next to Cory Webster. What I said to his agents was, and this is a fact, statistically, he was the worst starting 2 guard in the league last year. And I've had this conversation with Cory. He had a down year, he'll tell you. That has nothing to do with how I feel as Cory as a player. I signed the guy to a 3-year deal on a huge contract because I believed in him. When a lot of people were saying, hey, he's been with the Breakers twice before, maybe you should take a look at this, I said, no, he's so talented, we have to find a way to make this work. I believe in Cory, and I've told him as much, but I would never sit down with a player and say you were the worst guard in the league last year. But yeah, he didn't perform the way we thought he would, and he would tell you that. But that's why we invested a lot in him this offseason. He had a great World Cup. We're hoping to build off that. And for us, it's, like I said, we're 5 days out for the season. No team in the world, literally in the world, in the NBA, in the EuroLeague, in the Euro Cup, would give up one of their top players for free right before the season.
No. How do you think he's going to take it? Because he has a bit of a reputation at times for being a little bit sulky when things don't go his way.
I don't really want to speculate. What I'll say is that he's told us he's a professional, and if this is where he's going to be, he's going to act that way. I think Cory has an amazing opportunity to come in. If he plays the way he just did in the World Cup, we're going to have teams from Europe after the season approaching us with some serious numbers.
And that's a good thing, though, isn't it? As an owner, you want your players to be in demand.
Of course, and I want what's best for a player. I was a player. I was in Cory's exact shoes, where you're on a team where you feel like, oh, I've got this other opportunity. And you always feel like the grass is greener because you always feel like you deserve better. And Cory's a guy who believes he deserves to be in the NBA. And he's a talent like that. And I felt the same way. I want our players to get to the highest level they can. But 5 days before the season, after that World Cup, when we've invested in something that we paid a buyout to get Cory last year from Perth.
Yeah.
So we would be taking a net loss, and we would be losing one of our best players a week before the season. So in my mind, what are we talking about?
Yeah. So he didn't offer, I was told that he might have offered to pay back half of his contract. That didn't happen?
No. Now, in the last 24 hours, we have been approached by his agent saying that Cory would be willing to pay some buyout. It's not. In order for it to work for us financially, we'd be a worse team if Cory Webster left our team right now. No question. Even if we got Ethan Rusbatch. We would have to have a really big financial incentive. We're not a team that's rolling in money. So if there was an offer that could make sense for Cory and make sense for the club, of course we would entertain it. But what they're offering, it doesn't make sense for the club. And my job, I say it all the time, is to always make the decision that is best for the Breakers.
Absolutely. Well, you're putting some of your own money into it, so it makes sense for you to do that. When you look at what's happened over the time that you've been involved, you've lost some big names, and in New Zealand, they're even bigger names because we're a little country. You know, I look at guys like Paul Henare, Amika Vakona, Alex Pledger, Rob Lowe, came back, Shea Ely and Judd Flavel, and now Dylan Boucher. Do you get a sense for sort of how little New Zealand is?
Kevin Braswell as well.
Oh, and Kevin Braswell as well,
Don't forget.
of course. Sorry, yes. Do you get a sense for how small we are and how big we take these things?
Of course, and I think a lot of times people assume, oh, I don't understand, and I don't understand the magnitude. I get it. Like I said, I'm a sportsman, and I totally understand. But situations arise, and change happens, and maybe I'm jaded because I've been in sport for so long. It's very much in sport, you're on to the next one, and you have to be. And that's not being cold. That's the truth. When we took over the team, I bought the team on February 28th, 2018. We got swept in the playoffs. I met with Paul Henare. He wanted a 3-year contract. We had just bought the team. The team started 9-1 that year and won 5 of their last 20 games. We were not ready to invest 3 years in a guy that we didn't know. I bought the team the day before the playoffs started, so we wanted to go with a 1-year contract and get to know him and prove. And I understood his perspective. He wants more security. And we were saying, hey, we need to get to know you. Paulie decided that wasn't for him, and he walked away. From my side, there's no hard feelings. Of course, I understand Paulie's a legend here. Of course, people are going to say, how does that happen?
Yeah.
Of course, Paulie has hurt feelings, and he has poor feelings for us, I'm sure, because of that. But that's the reality of the situation. We're a new ownership group coming into a new country in a new league where our team had just lost 15 of the last 20 games, and we weren't ready to commit to a coach we didn't know for 3 years. So I look at it very logically, like everything. Mika Vukona. We might as well talk through it all so the fans know. Mika Vukona. Again, we bought the team the day before the end of the season. We re-signed Tom Abercrombie to a 3-year deal. We pursued Shea Ely, a young guy, signed him to a 2-year deal. We had every intention of getting to Mika. At that point, I'll be totally honest, I didn't understand the dynamics of who Mika was in terms of this country. I think there were some hurt feelings there again that we didn't approach Mika right away and try and get that done. He ended up getting a deal in Brisbane that we were never going to match. And that's just the truth in terms of the money.
No matter when you'd approached him.
No matter when.
Yeah.
It would have been great if we had an opportunity to have that discussion, which we didn't get, which I understand. There was a lot of uncertainty. Change breeds change. But we were not going to match the 2-year deal that he got there. He got a great deal. I'm very happy for him and his family in terms of that deal because we couldn't have matched it. That doesn't mean I have ill feelings towards Mika or maybe I handled it wrong because I didn't approach Mika at the same time I approached Tom and Shea because I didn't understand the dynamic. And that's just the truth. That's not an excuse. That's on me. But we weren't going to match that deal.
Do you feel at times that you shot Bambi?
Yeah, I mean, look, I totally get it. And the reason why the Blackwells built something so special here. Why we wanted to buy the Breakers was because of that. And I understand the magnitude of what we've done. I've been in sport forever, and our fans are so passionate. And I love it. I'd rather our fans be mad at me and care than nobody to care about us.
That's right.
So
that's the
we have
worst thing that
passionate
could happen.
fans. And I tell this to everyone. I'm always happy, members, anyone, to answer questions about it and talk through things. And sometimes it's a little frustrating because people speculate, change, there must be the sky is falling. And that's not the case, I assure you.
Yeah, the other one, and you know this, Dylan Boucher leaving. I mean, Dylan is the Breakers, or has been the Breakers. He's synonymous with the Breakers. How did that come about? Is he just not good enough at that job?
No, the simple answer is no. Sunday, Dylan approached me and said, hey, I'm going to resign. I'm ready to do something else. And I don't want to answer more specifically why Dylan wanted to leave because that's what we were told. That's what he said.
Sure.
Dylan's role has changed significantly since we took over the team. Before we came, Dylan was everything in the front office. He was commercial. He was basketball. When we took over, obviously we've got some people who have basketball minds, and we looked at the organization and how they were doing financially and decided we need to bring some more commercial help in here. So his role changed. And then we hired Dan Shamir, who's got experience with all these other clubs. And for Dylan, and again, I don't want to answer for him, but maybe he just looked around and said, this isn't what it was to me anymore, and he was ready for a new challenge. But again, like me and Dylan sat down and talked yesterday, there's no hard feelings. I am very appreciative of what Dylan did for 18 months. He was a great friend to me and a great asset to the organization, and I'll support him in any way I can. But, I spoke with the Blackwells this week, and first thing Paul says is, yeah, change breeds more change. It's what he says to me every time, and he's like, this is a natural thing. So I understand from the outside you've got these guys who are heroes of the game here. But it's not, like I said, we had our jersey blessing this morning, and our organization is in a better place now than it's been since I took over in 18 months. We've built an amazing team. Lisa Edzer, Craig Stanaway. So we have an amazing team. And it's hurtful to me that when I know our staff is reading this sky is falling stuff, because that's not the case. And we work so hard, and we've worked so hard this off season, it bothers me that they kind of have to go through that. I've been in the media my whole life. I've dealt with it far worse than things I'm called here. I played against Kentucky when I was at Florida. So I've been called the worst things in the world. And it's just frustrating because we're working really hard and we've got some amazing things and positive things going for the season. And it feels like sometimes speculation and uncertainty kind of drags us down.
What sort of a club do you want the Breakers to be?
So I've said this from day one. I came here with about a 10% chance thinking I was going to buy the team. I saw who the Breakers were. I met with the Blackwells. We met at Takapuna Beach Cafe. We rode up to Taraiti, spent the day playing golf, and I was like, man, these people are amazing. What they've built is amazing. I want to come in, I want to buy the team, and build on what they've done. And our two of our three mission statement. Our mission statement is to use basketball to positively impact the community, to grow the game, and to provide great sporting entertainment. You don't hear anything about winning because we feel like if we do those things, the wins will come. We're always going to do everything we can behind the scenes. And we do now more. The Blackwells and the Breakers have always done tons in the community, but we've built on that. We do more in the community now than we've ever done. Ever. And it's getting covered more than ever. So for us, it's as much about giving back to the community, and we still are that family organization. You come by our office, you'll see my kids are running around, Dan kids are running around. So that's another thing that's a little bit hurtful to us, I think, is when people say, oh, they're not the family organization, they're not the culture club. Just because we want to be commercially viable, which they never were before, doesn't mean we're not the culture club, doesn't mean we don't have the family stuff. But we need to be able to sustain this business. And I can tell you, the Breakers weren't going to be around 3 years from now or 2 years from now if we didn't come in or someone else didn't come in and buy the team.
How have the players, I guess, responded to that? Because that's a more, and this is not a criticism, it's a more ruthless, a more commercial sort of an edge. You know, Liz Blackwell used to make brownies for the players on game day. You're not going to be doing that.
Well, she still does.
She still does?
She still does.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Are they good brownies?
They're really good. But I may have to dime her out here. Sometimes she makes muffins, which are amazing. Other times she has Pack and Save make the brownies. So, so she does 50% of the 50%. But we still do that. The Blackwells are still, Maddie and Paul went to practice 2 nights ago.
But
They're still
you're
very much
deliberately, and again, this is not a criticism, you're deliberately bringing in that more commercial side of it. And has there been a little bit of tension around that?
Yeah, there's no question. It's a change in attitude, and it's been reflected in the office. We've had a lot of office staff change because there was one way of doing things before, and it's natural when new ownership and management comes in. But again, we need to be commercially viable. In order for New Zealand to have a professional basketball team in the Australian League, we had to become viable commercially. And in order to do that, we had to make change, and we had to change the attitude that just getting by in terms of the commercial side of things wasn't good enough.
Basketball is exploding in New Zealand. The numbers are through the roof. It's the second most popular sport in secondary schools now, behind netball, probably a sport you'd never heard of until you came to New Zealand.
That's true.
But so how do you balance keeping these young guys coming through the ranks and then also using imports to make sure that in the short term you're a successful team on the court? Yeah,
so the reality of our league is it's largely driven by the level of your imports. We are so fortunate that being the New Zealand team, we have a lot of the tall blacks who want to play for us.
Sure.
In a year like this, when they're gone till September 15th, it's not ideal, but it's amazing to see them performing in the World Cup and having 6 national team players. If you look around the world, we may be the only team in the world who has that and who's that fortunate. And it's what gives us the base to build our team. The Tom Abercrombies, the Cory Websters, the Rob Lowe's, the Finn Delaney's. These are all guys who are star level in our league. When you surround them with good imports, really good things happen. But you know, if you look back in the history of the Breakers, I think there's only 2, Cedric Jackson and one other guy who's played more than 1 year here as an import. And that's the nature of our business because salary cap, we're not going over the salary cap. Guys come here and really perform like Sean Long, they get offered 3 times the amount of money in Melbourne.
Yeah.
So people want to say, oh, well, Sean Long left. Yeah, we knew he was leaving. He came here, we had him for an amazing contract, he killed it. We can't match that salary. And that's the reality of our business. And we're always going to operate, like I said, commercially and while we're trying to win games while also doing our community work.
RJ Hampton, how important is he to the club and in terms of setting a pathway for others coming over like he has?
Yeah, I mean, he was the first one, so it's very exciting. Obviously, LaMelo Ball followed him. But RJ Hampton is legitimately one of the 3 most talented 18-year-olds in the world. To get a guy like that to make the conscious decision, I'm not going to Duke. I'm not going to Kentucky. I'm not going to China to make millions. I'm going to the New Zealand Breakers because they give me the best chance to fulfill my dreams. It's amazing. It's something that all of New Zealand should be proud of. He did an interview this week. I encourage everyone to read it on USA Today. He does a blog. All he's doing is raving about it. His family is engulfing themselves in the culture here. It's amazing. And he's really important because we've invested a lot in him so that next year we can get the next RJ Hampton. Because it gives all of our players more exposure and it gives them a chance to play in front of the world's best.
Has he been living up to expectations so far?
He's amazing. One of the things, we knew he was super talented. That wasn't a question. We didn't know what kind of kid he'd be. We didn't know how he'd be in the locker room, and we didn't know how quick he'd pick up the basketball systems because Dan Shamir's stuff is EuroLeague level stuff. It's very high level. All of that has been a 10 out of 10. He's a great teammate. He is a great kid, great family. So glad that they're all here supporting him. And he's picked up the basketball stuff and he makes the right play every time. It's not about him. He's here to win. He's here. He understands that if we win and he does the right things, he's going to get exactly what he wants, which is to be the number one pick next year.
Taking your calls on 0800 825577 and also your text messages. Pete from Nelson says, when will the final development slots be filled or announced?
So we're working through that. There's a new rule with the NBL CBA this year that development players have to get a certain minimum salary. So for us in the past, we've always signed development guys if they were local or we could get them if we believe there's a chance they could end up being on the Breakers. Now, because there's a very big financial investment we have to make in that, it really has to be somebody we believe has a chance to make the Breakers. So we're working through that. We've got some local guys like Sam Meninga and guys who are playing at Rosmini and
Westlake.
Yep. Thank you for who are going to play for us as soon as their school year ends. They've got exams and everything to get through. And then we're on the market for 3 more development players, but we're only going to sign guys if we believe they really have a chance to make the Breakers because it's a big financial investment for us. And we have our development academies that we run 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. every day with the high school kid or the college kids. So we're already developing Breakers, future Breakers talent in our minds. But in order for them to come and be an actual development player, we need to believe that they're going to play for the Breakers sometime in the future.
As I said earlier, the sport has exploded in New Zealand, but that's just in terms of numbers. What are your thoughts on the quality of players coming through in New Zealand?
I've been shocked, I'll be honest with you. Coming to New Zealand, I didn't have high expectations. And I knew that we had the Tom Abercrombies of the world and the Finn Delaney's, but like I said, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., we have our development academies, men and women. And the level of play here for a country of this small and the amount of kids we send on Division I scholarships, NCAA did an event here last year. We send the second most in the world per capita behind Canada. That's pretty amazing for New Zealand to send the second most Division I athletes to the United States behind Canada.
Yeah, it is. It's just such a explosion of talent. Hey, if I look at the Breakers as well, Andre Lemanos was coach for 6 years without winning a title and then won 3 in a row. How tolerant are you going to be in terms of success? I'm
going to be very tolerant. We have our guy. Dan, Dan's in the process of getting his permanent residency. He loves it here and his family, and Dan has changed our whole organization in a positive manner. He's worked with the biggest clubs in the world. He's come in and cleaned us up, which has been really good in terms of some of the stuff we thought was the right way to do things. He's shown us a better path. We've signed Mark Harvey, the former Sevens strength and conditioning coach.
I know Harv very well, yes. Former Navy man. Yeah. He's a hard shot.
And he is, but we've professionalized a lot in the last 6 months due to getting RJ Hampton, due to wanting to take the next step as an organization. And for us, we always say it's not about the results, it's about the process. And now we have the right processes in place. Look, this year the league is really tough. We've put out a great roster. We're working really hard. I see the coaching staff working. I see the on-court guys working. We may lose 3 games in overtime like last year and miss the playoffs.
Yep.
But for us, it's not about, that's sport.
Yeah.
But I know that we're putting the right work in to give ourselves the best chance to win a championship. And that's the same thing with Cory Webster. How can I, as the CEO and owner of this team, say, I want to win a championship, but I'm going to let Cory Webster go for free?
If Mark Harvey suggests that the staff from the Breakers go and do a little exercise down at the Navy docks, just say that you're sick that day.
Just say no.
Just say no.
He has been lobbying for
just
a group
say
workout.
no. Just trust me on this and just say, oh look, that's a great idea. Everyone else can go, but I'm actually busy that day. I've got a young baby.
I'll just plan it on a work trip to the States.
Yeah. Hey, how have you settled into New Zealand? Because it was chaotic when you came here. You had a baby, about a week before the first game?
Yes, last year was a brutal year. I somehow convinced my wonderful wife that moving to New Zealand when she was 8 months pregnant was a good idea with 2 other little kids. So we do that. We move here end of July last year. My daughter, very selfishly, I can't wait to tell her when she's older, is born on October 2nd, and our first game was October 8th. So I'm trying to manage sponsor responsibilities, CEO responsibilities, all these things, managing the team. And I have a brand new baby in a country where we have no family.
Yeah.
We have some support with the Blackwells and some really good friends, but it was really hard. This year we have our feet under us. We were able to leave the baby with the babysitter, but we love it here. I talked about Dan getting his permanent residency. We're doing the same thing. We came here not knowing exactly what it would be like and how long we'd be here, and we love it here. I tell everyone, when I tell my daughter to put shoes on, she says, "No, Daddy, I'm a Kiwi."
Yeah.
So, so that's basically where we're at. We love it here, and we're here to stay.
Wait till your kids in winter walk around in jandals, shorts and t-shirts.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Now she
right.
won't put shoes on.
My kids walk out the door and go, "Hey, it's winter." And they just look at me, "Dad, don't be stupid," and off they go.
Yeah.
You know, off they go. One last thing, you're going to go to play OKC in the States. That's exciting, isn't it?
It's really amazing. We've got 2 games. We play the Grizzlies and then OKC. And for us to play against Steven Adams, me selfishly to play Billy Donovan, who coached me in college, it's just amazing. And for our guys to play against Steven Adams and NBA talent like that, I've been telling everyone in the office we're winning one of those NBA games. So I really feel like we have a chance to give them a run for their money. And it's just an awesome experience. And I think it's a really good chance for the New Zealanders to see just how high our level of play is, because we're going to compete with those teams. And for them to see us play against Steven Adams and compete, I think it's a great way to grow the game.
And you're taking some Kiwis over there with one of your sponsors?
Yeah, so we've got a supporters tour going, which is really exciting. And we're also working with Kaye, the group here, to get a whole bunch of New Zealanders who live in the States to come to the game, which should be exciting. I'd love to have a big Kiwi contingent.
I think we should be doing the show from there, Mark Kelly. What do you reckon, mate? You're a big basketball man.
Yeah, all right, you convinced me. Let's do it.
That didn't take long, did it?
You're more than welcome.
Take long. Hey, look, it is 27 minutes away from 11 o'clock. Matt Walsh, thank you so much for your time, mate. I really appreciate you coming in, clarifying what has been sort of a little bit murky. And it's good to get the truth out there and to get some answers to those questions. So thank you so much.
Yeah, anytime. I really enjoyed being on. Thank you.
I thought he answered all the questions extremely well. What an approachable guy. Wanted to come into the studio. Wanted to clarify what was going on with Cory Webster. And just an engaging guy to chat with. So, yeah, thank you, Mark Kelly, for organising that. And thanks to Matt for coming in. I think he spoke well. And certainly John on 5009 on the text machine says, what a great interview. A CEO who answers questions and says it how it is. Absolutely. And then Pete came back, appreciate the response, realistic goals in the 2 NBA games. Well, you heard him say, Pete, he wants to win one of them. He wants to win one of them. And also, RJ Hampton shooting the house down, playing really well, fitted into the culture superbly well. Also interesting, I thought, when he said that the Breakers would not have been around if they hadn't stepped in. And I have heard that the Blackwells have said the same thing. They lost money almost every year. And you can't continue to do that unless you've got very deep pockets. And clearly they had deep pockets for a very long time. But it was good news, I think, to hear the fact that that he stepped in and helped them out.